You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you a little bit about our current sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. As you well know, if you've been following This is Oklahoma, they've been a huge part of this podcast. So this podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling an Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Also, for the podcast, a new sponsor this year that's just come on board and super excited to announce RCB Bank. Since 1936, RCB Bank has offered progressive products and a friendly service. Come in today to find out more about their loan promotion on new, used, refinance cars, boats, campers, and ATVs. Visit RCB Bank to learn more. RCB Bank, that's my bank. With approved credit, restrictions apply. Now, let's get into today's episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode up in Luther today with Jared Holt, also known as Jrod, probably better known as Jrod, sat in what is, I guess, one of your buildings out here, man. Thanks for having me out.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is my little man's garage I built out here in the middle of nowhere. And when we bought this property, I needed some space to, at the time, only house 3 cars. And now I've got a couple more than 3.
Yeah. Typical car guy, right? It just keeps evolving.
Yes, sir.
But, I mean, obviously, people know you from racing, and obviously the Supra is the other side of the camera. They know you for the Supra. But, you know, the goal today is obviously tell people a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
Sure.
Right? So, I guess go right back to the start. You born and raised in Okie?
Yeah, I was born in a little town in eastern Oklahoma, Shawnee. I didn't live there. We were living in Stroud at the time. My granddad owned a restaurant there. My dad worked in the oil field. My mom was a waitress at his restaurant, my grandfather's restaurant. And we lived there till I was about 12. And my dad got transferred in the oil field. And we ended up in a little town in southern Oklahoma called Velma, Elma. Mm-hmm. Very small town, population 300 or 400 people. You know, it's one of those schools that encompasses many little other communities, and we all go to the same school. I don't know how big my graduating class, 20, 30, 40 people maybe. I can't remember. Graduated high school in 2003, but my ticket that punched me out of there is I was good at golf. Yeah. We won back-to-back state titles my junior and senior year, and I made All-State and got a full ride to play golf, and got me to the town of Seminole, and that's where I started really getting into cars. When I was a senior in high school, my dad told me kind of an incentive. He's like, we didn't make a lot of money. I actually grew up in a trailer house, and he was like, if you can get a full ride in golf, I'll buy you any car within reason. Well, yeah, it was in 2002, so the Fast and Furious had just came out.
Yeah.
So obviously I was attracted to imports, you know, big exhaust tips and underbody lights. So we went on the hunt. My parents found a pearl yellow 95 3000 GT non-turbo in Sherman, Denison, Texas. And they bought it for me. I think it was like $7,500. And boy, let me tell you what, I thought it was the fastest car on the planet. And I had a couple of buddies in high school that had like, you know, LS1 Camaros at the time. Of course, I was talking smack and I would just get rolled up. I mean, those guys would kick my butt. But it really introduced me to motorsports, and that was the car that took me on to college. And that's where I met a lot of buddies that I still have contact with today through that car. Mm-hmm. And I got in a lot of trouble in that car in college. Like, I got busted in Shawnee doing 140 in a 40 residential. And that was not a small ticket. And that was, you know, you live, you learn kind of deal. But yeah, that's what really kind of got me into cars was during my college years. I did a lot of street racing, a lot of street racing. Yeah. And then after my sophomore year of college, I was pretty good in college, and I actually decided I was going to try to do this as a living. And I moved to Florida and went to work for a Greg Norman golf course down there and was giving lessons, playing mini tour golf. Yeah. And then my first real paycheck, I found the Twinkie to my 95 Pearl Yellow 3000 GT, but it was the Pearl Yellow VR4, which for those that don't know is the twin turbo all-wheel drive model. And me and my wife, I guess girlfriend then, drove up to Fort Rucker, Alabama. Yeah. Bought that car from a retired Army colonel, and kind of the rest is history. I got a kind of funny story about that car. I took it back to Panama City Beach where I was living, and I bought a Grady Type S blow-off valve. So back in the day, they were purple top and had to have one. It was the first modification I did on a car, and I actually knocked myself out while installing that. I had bought it used on a car forum called 3SI, and the guy who'd sold it to me had just whacked off the hose that he attached to it. Well, it was dry rotted. Right. So I'd put it in a vise and I was pulling on that thing. And when it let go, my goodness, it hit me right in the left of my nose underneath my eye. And next thing I know, I woke up and I was severely sunburned and I actually had a little hole in my nose. And my mom asked me what happened. I was like, I guess I knocked myself out working on a car. And then, I started street racing a lot in Panama City Beach. And then I was down there right after Hurricane Harvey. So that would have been like 05, 06 era. And then in February of 2007, that's when my life changed. I had came back to Oklahoma City to visit my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and I put together this little 3000 GT car event at 50 Penn Place in Oklahoma City. And a guy pulled in that parking lot. It depends on what side of the story you want to go to. We'll just go with what the police report said. The guy had a stress-induced seizure and ran me, my wife, and another one over. Jeez. And I had to have reconstructive right leg and knee surgery. My wife had to have reconstructive ankle surgery, broke her left arm, her left femur. It really did a number on us. And at that point, I couldn't rehab to the point where I could play golf at the level I needed to. Yeah. Truth be told, you being a golfer, you know this, that life is a long, hard grind.
Oh, it's miserable, isn't it? If you're, mini tour life and grinding for paychecks and it's
a lot of traveling, a lot of expenses. But the neat thing that helped me through that is I met a gentleman named Bart Starr. So I don't know, for those who don't know, he was Super Bowl 1 and 2 MVP for the Green Bay Packers. He was a member of the country club down there, and he helped me quite a bit with entrances to those tournaments, which helped. But after that accident in February of 2007, I rehabbed, never was really the same, and then realized I probably had to get a real job. Yeah. And so in September of 2007, my wife needed a car because there was a flood that month, and it flooded her car out. And we ended up at Bob Howard, and I guess I had enough charisma and salesmanship that the general manager at the time really kind of liked my personality and offered me a job on the spot. Yeah. And so here we are 15 years later, and I still work at Bob Howard Toyota, and been there for a long time. It's been a great career for me, and has obviously been able to fuel my passion for cars, because I've definitely added a couple since then.
Yeah, that's one thing that, like I said, we're golfers, right? So we understand. We've grown up meeting people every day, having, talking and just striking up a conversation. Yep. And I same as me, like I don't find it hard to strike up a conversation with anybody, because that's naturally what we did growing up.
Yeah. And, you meet someone at a tee box, you got 3 other guys on tee box you've more than likely never met before, and you got to spend the next 4 hours with them. So you kind of get to know them. Yeah.
So how do you get into golf then from a young age?
Yeah, so it's crazy. Like I said, in Velma, Alma, America, like that's not a town that's known for golf. Right. We won multiple state, football titles, track, basketball, softball. Like we were a powerhouse in every sport but golf. And surprisingly enough, we had a little 9-hole golf course. And my dad picked it up at an oil field tournament, and he was a great athlete too. But he went right after high school. He went to the oil field in the early '80s because that was the thing to do instead of playing college sports. But he kind of thought golf was for weenies, it wasn't a sport that he liked, but he liked it. So he introduced me to it, and I guess I was really natural. I didn't start until late in life. I didn't start until I was 13.
Oh yeah, that is late. For someone who wants to pursue it as a career, that is late, right? Because usually it's like 5 or 6.
At 13, and really kind of sucked. But by the time I was 14, that's all I did for that summer. I lived and breathed golf, walked the golf course just back to back to time, played a lot. And by the time I was 15, I was pretty salty. I was already shooting 70s, and then I started playing junior PGA, AJGA, did all that, and that was my freshman year of high school. And we actually went to state my freshman year, which Velma Alma had never really been a contender, but we had 4 other players that were right behind me that were really good. Yeah. Myself, a kid named Josh Leffler, who turned out to be a very prominent businessman here in Oklahoma. Sadly enough, he actually passed away about 6 months ago, a tragic car accident. Another good guy on our team, his name is Casey Hayes. He, his parents own a very successful oil field company down there. I think he's doing the same stuff. And Chad McFadden, Dustin Firestone, and we just had this 5 kids that out of nowhere just were stud golfers, and we set records. And I think we shot 282 my senior year at state, which for a 2A school to shoot 1 or 2 over par, which is pretty wild. Deal, so it was pretty neat. 2 of us on that team actually went on to go play college golf, and then it was just neat how it all happened. And then I think 2 years after I graduated, they won state again. And then I don't think they've won state since. But it was kind of a dynasty deal. It's pretty cool. And, that's why I'm so heavily rooted in Oklahoma is I love Oklahoma. I grew up very rural, and I like the people in Oklahoma. Where I grew up, we didn't have to lock our doors. We didn't take our keys out of our car. Everybody you passed on the road, you kind of give the old friendly wave to. And that's probably a lot of the reason I live in Luther. I'm not much on the big cities. When Kim and I, my wife, moved to Oklahoma City in 2007, 97. We lived in an apartment on the south side. Then we bought a house on the northwest side at like 122nd Rockwell. But I knew that life wasn't for me.
Yeah.
For one, neighbors didn't like loud cars. And at the time I was racing drag Banshees. So we'd always be ripping up, four-wheelers up and down the driveway. And I had just bought a head cam ACR Viper at the time. And it was loud as hell.
Well, and if you're street racing at night too.
Yeah.
So you're waking everyone up when you come home or going out.
Yeah. We'd be rolling in at like 4 o'clock in the morning. The neighbors hated me. And in that time frame, in the 07, 08 time frame, I had started a group with a couple buddies called the 1%. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like a, 1% of cars basically qualified to be in it. And we went out and we roll raced on the freeways. We street raced. Yeah. And then at the same time, that's when the Midwest streetcar guys, now known as the Street Outlaws, were kind of really getting big, and they had a top 10 list, and they did dig racing. So there was a little bit of animosity between us, but at the end of the day, we were still all car guys. And I was kind of getting pulled towards more of the drag racing scene at that time. I love the roll racing stuff, and I organized a lot of it, but I really was, it just really interested me. So I started running security for those guys, paying my dues. And that's when I got to know, everybody that's on the TV show now. And when the show finally got a chance to become a show, we were part of the pilot. Me and a guy named Josh Brooks, I remember went out, he had this Galant VR4. He actually owns Precision Automotive Development now in Edmond, but we went out and raced Big Chief in his truck, and it was a lot of fun. And then obviously, when all your friends get a TV show about street racing, man, how cool is that? Based right here in Oklahoma.
Like to do it legally.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I got the chance to go on the show and race Farm Truck and Asian, my good friends, in my Supra. And we knew at the time it was just going to be this quick, impromptu deal. I knew I didn't have a chance to win, but it was going to be fun. I was going to get on national TV and have some fun. Well, that really lit a fire under me, and I got absolutely destroyed on TV, which I knew was going to happen. And, when you're on those shows, they tell you to make it interesting, to make it spicy. So me and Asian made it extremely spicy, and we kind of got in an altercation all for TV and had some fun with it. But I reached out to Real Street Performance, which is based in Orlando, shortly after that aired. And because at the time I was going to try to build a car that was going to go after the lists. Back then, the cars, they weren't as fast as they are now. Sure. You could have a car that probably went 470, 480 in the 8th mile, and you could have been a contender. So I sent the car down there, and over the couple of years it was being built and tested, we finally got the car in the high 7s. And but by the time we'd got the car to where I thought it was going to be competitive, the Street Outlaw guys had just advanced so far that I couldn't be competitive anymore. So we kind of went a different direction with the car, and we started doing, World Cup finals, TX2K, race week, and we just progressed that car to the point. In my brain, I would have never thought I'd have a bottom 7-second, 190 mile an hour, 3,500 pound full metal glass street car. Yeah. That just blows my mind. At the time I just wanted a bottom 8, high 7-second car, but just like anything in life, you want to do better, you want to go faster, you want to progress. So it's been a progression. And now, that car is pretty well known. We won Outlaw Armageddon in 2019 in that car, which for those of you that don't know what Outlaw Armageddon is, it's a no prep race that's basically built around the Street Outlaw guys. Uh-huh. And we took an import in a field of 94 cars that were all domestic, and we won. And that was a really big deal for the import community, and it really put me and Real Street even more on the map, and the car more so than any. And now that car is probably arguably one of the top 5 or 6 cars in True Street in the United States, if not the country. There's not too many cars that can go 460, 470, 8th mile on a small tire and drive it to school and go pick your daughter up.
Well, and like it's in one of the best colors in the world, right? And green is coming back, or green is officially already back, I think, and it's just, me coming from the UK and seeing British racing green and just like, those kind of colors, and I see that, I'm like, that's,
And what's funny story is when I got it, I hated it. I hated the green. When I bought it, I bought the car.
Were you the only person with a green car?
Yeah, I was
right?
2012, I think, is when I got it. I actually traded an RX-7 straight across for it, which that sounds crazy today with the prices of Supras, but I was like, any color but green. God, I don't want green. But anyway, it was a good deal. It was a 97, so it was the limited anniversary year. We made the trade, and at first, like I said, I was going to keep it stock, and then, I got the opportunity to be on that show, and it changed it. But now, everything revolves around green because that car's become part of me. Yeah. So like, we do t-shirts in green. My daughter's favorite color is green. Now my favorite color is green. It's crazy how an object can change your whole outlook on, like, say, a favorite color, because I love green now.
Yeah. So the JDM stuff, right? And the import stuff. Yep. Obviously you watch Fast and Furious, and that is coming out, and I loved watching those, and and then the second one comes out, right? You're probably in Florida at the time, and you're just like, this is like my life, jet skis and all that whole scene. Yep. I guess why the JDM stuff over like Dom's Charger and everything
domestic.
else, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
because like everyone else just goes Charger.
Oh, for sure, especially being in Oklahoma,
right?
You know, like with Oklahoma, and to being the import guy, you definitely were kind of picked on almost, like imports aren't fast. What are you doing out here street racing with a 6-cylinder or a 4-cylinder? So yeah, it was definitely, it was kind of cool to me. And I've always been one to kind of be different. And, I've said this in other interviews before, like for Drag Illustrated and stuff, but they go, what made you pick imports? Well, that one decision my parents made to buy me any car within their budget changed the outlook of really my whole life. Right. They could have bought me a Camaro or a Trans Am, but the movie had just came out, and it was a bright yellow car, and it had a big spoiler, and my mom loved big spoilers, and that's just the car we bought. Yeah. And literally, if they would have bought me a Mustang or a Fox Body, I would have been a domestic guy like everybody else. Right. But that one decision that my parents made in 2004 or 2 or whenever it was changed my entire life. And now I collect these 90s JDM cars that I grew up lusting after, through the movie, and then obviously the video game Gran Turismo. Yeah. So that game had a big influence on a lot of, 30-something-year-old people. And, you drive the RX-7 Spirit R, the 3000 GT, or the Nissan Skyline. Those are the cars you wanted. And luckily I've been in a position in my life I was able to afford most of them. We just picked up a 300ZX, which is the last twin-turbo 90s car that I needed to complete the collection. So pretty lucky to be able to get all those cars.
Yeah. And obviously the car we have in front of us too is just a little bit of just fun, I'm sure, right?
Yeah,
just
the red one?
I mean this little rocket ship.
The Indy car. Yeah, we picked that up not long ago. Actually, a street racer, a street outlaw guy by the name of Cody Garrettson. He was on the first couple episodes of Street Outlaws. He had a car called Your Mom, and he knows I kind of like small, different things, and it's kind of goofy. And he knew that I was trying to do this YouTube venture that we're fixing to start, and he was like, hey, I got this open wheel little Indy car thing that I can't really fit in, and do you want to take a chance at buying it? He didn't know much about it. I bought it, and me and my buddies got it running like literally the next day, and we were making laps out here in Luther on Memorial Road on it. It goes 80 miles an hour. It's got a 340cc 2-stroke snowmobile motor in it. Yeah. It's got a centrifugal clutch, and I did some research on these, and I guess they were huge up in like Iowa, Indiana, and Michigan in the late 80s and 90s. There was a class they raced on. They raced on asphalt and dirt, and they were round cars. It was a way for a guy to spend less than 10 grand and go be competitive and race. Yeah. How this ended up in Oklahoma, I don't know. But our plans on it's going to be pretty epic. I bought a Gixxer 750, like a new body one, and we're going to swap the power plant into that, and we're going to, update it a little bit. I've kind of got some cool livery ideas in my brain. Obviously, I've painted it pearl white. So for those of you guys that know Indy, the Senna car, the Marlboro, we're going to do the same graphic setup as that. Yeah. And then we're going to take it to my buddy Garrett Mitchell, aka Cletus. We're going to take it down to the Freedom Factory. He obviously gave me an open invitation to come down there, and we're going to rip this thing around the Freedom Factory. So awesome. It should be a lot of fun.
Tell me about the YouTube venture. That's obviously a big thing. Everyone growing up is like, I want to be a YouTuber now. Like, and obviously there's a lot of people, like you just meant, Cletus, guy, he's known as Garrett, everyone knows him as Cletus, but why now?
Well, it's a good question. Why now? I mean, I'm 36 years old, and why am I just now doing this? Over for the last 10, 15 years, I've always been on, the other side of the camera for like 1320 video, TRC. I've had a bunch of these videos made about me, and they get pretty good views, 500,000 to 1 million plus. And all my buddies in like Kyle Loftus, the owner of 1320, and Garrett, Cletus, he's like, man, you really need to do the YouTube thing. He goes, you're pretty personable, and you're kind of quirky. A lot of people know me. I like to race barefoot.
Right. You're already used to holding a phone up or a camera at you, right? Anyway. Yeah. And then last year, my buddy Javier, who owns That Racing Channel, we were talking about it. He goes, why don't you start bringing me some content from Oklahoma, some homegrown, built, domestic LS stuff. So I did a couple YouTube videos for them. They got really good reviews. People loved me as a host. So I was like, well, hell, let's just give this a go. And obviously I go by Jrod, so we're going to call it Jrod's Garage. And it's going to feature with me. I have 2 small kids now. My daughter's 8, my son is 5. And obviously we're teaching the next generation about hot rodding. Yeah. So we're going to be building all these cars and including them. And I got a couple buddies that are going to help me along with that. And we're going to go down this YouTube venture. And I think it's going to be pretty cool because just like anything in life, if you know the right people, it makes things easier. I think I know a lot of the people that are going to help me, and anytime you can get help and grow a YouTube channel, it's only going to do good. Right. So. You're right. That's the thing is you've already made, 10 or however many years you've been doing this, right? You already have the connections, and like you said, you hang out, you do a few collaborations with friends that you already have, and then boom, you kind of mine their followers. Correct. And then fast track the kind of the same thing that I guess Lou in the Street Nation did, right?
Absolutely.
They got to 100,000 super quick, and he's doing great things over there. Obviously, I just saw the print that he gave you, which is sick.
Good friends with those guys. I've been friends with them for a long time, and great people, and they're so welcoming. They're like, anything we can do to help you grow, we're going to do it. And the same way with Garrett and Cletus, and his buddy Cooper, who just spawned off and started his new. My buddy Rob Dom with all the rotary stuff. Kyle Loftus 1320 video. They're all just so welcoming. They're like, just do it. Get the content out there. People know who you are. They will. The subscribers will come.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. People don't realize how much work making video productions is, but like, my gosh, it's so much work. I work at a dealership, so I work 60, 70 hours a week already. And then I come home and I'm tired, but I got to film. So we do videos in the shop on Wednesdays and Sundays are my day off. We're always filming stuff. We've got about 7 months filmed, and we plan to drop our first video actually the first week of April.
That's great.
And then we're going to do one a week. And the great thing about it is I personally think TRC has the best editing out there for car videos, and so they're going to do all my editing for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
to mention that, I watched the video you did with Sean. I watched obviously Hunter's video you did recently, which was amazing. With his side by side, and then another video was like the truck where he raced, I think near Pops probably against that bike.
Exactly. I
was like, this truck looks insane.
1,000 horsepower truck. A guy named Jim Eckert. I'd made a post on a local Facebook group and was looking for talent to be on the channel, and I kind of thought his truck was cool, and we actually just filmed one we haven't aired yet. It's on Sean, aka Murder Nova. Okay. We went out there and we filmed all day. I got to go back out there and wrap up because I didn't get to film the OG Murder Nova or his 55. But
does he have some donks?
He does, right? Yeah. We rolled around in one. Obviously, he likes to play golf too.
Okay.
He's tall as hell and he's left-handed. Yeah. So me, him, and his son, and I got to interview him as we were rolling down the highway in his donk, and we went out to Early Wine. Yeah. And we were just banging balls. And of course, anytime you got him on the driving range and cameras everywhere, it draws attention. So we were out there hitting balls, and when I was playing, I taught myself how to play lefty too. So I was out there hitting his driver, and we had a good time. And that's another thing that we're going to feature on my YouTube, Jrod's Garage, is we're going to show behind the scenes stuff that you don't get to see on the TRC features. There'll be more candid moments, us being guys, cutting up, being silly, and I think a lot of people will get to see. Get to see a lot of a side of those guys that they never got to see. I've got Ryan Martin lined up to do next. I know Chuck wants to have me out, so I'm going to try to do all the Street Outlaw guys that'll allow me to come out and film them, and it'll be good for those guys starting YouTube channels. It'll be good for me, and it'll be great for TRC too.
Yeah. So the reason that we connected was shout out to Lou. Lou connected us. But I came on the January cruise for Cruisin Oklahoma. I came out, we went out it was awesome, had a blast. I've been doing some social media work with the Porsche dealership, so I had a kind of chalk colored Boxster GTS, which was freezing cold, but I think I have a rule that if you drive a car with the roof down,
it's down.
It has to be down, and it was with the recent cruise. I had a Carrera 4S cab, and like it's 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, but the roof's coming down, and thankfully we've had great days for it. For sure. I missed the Hallett one, but these have been just amazing events. You got people coming from all over, to cruise together and, have dinner, or, the recent one, right? We shut down downtown Blanchard. And they were so welcoming, and I was shocked driving through all, I was texting my wife, I was like, we have a police escort through like 5 or 6 towns. And then when they picked us up coming back into town, all the cars kept pulling over, and I'm like, do they think we're in a funeral procession, right? And I was like, these cars are gonna have to wait a long time. There's like 400 or 500 cars. It's amazing, and I know this has been a goal of yours to do this. What does it mean to you, I guess, and why would you start something like that?
Obviously I started right smack dab in the middle of COVID. Right. Obviously, I don't know how everybody at home feels about COVID. I'm not really worried about it. I got it. I lived through it. I know some people were affected by it negatively, but in my opinion, it's life. So for us to shut down our country, our way of life, I wasn't okay with that. So all the car events were getting shut down, and we didn't really have a venue for car guys to get out and do anything. And for one, Cars and Coffee, love the event. It's super cool. It happens on Saturdays. I can't go because of car business. And for two, ever since my accident, my knee hurts, and I can't stand in a parking lot for 3 hours. And to me, I'm a car guy. I want to drive my car. I don't want to sit here and look at a bunch of cool cars. I want to hear them. I want to see them, smell them, feel them. Like, driving a car to me is an experience. It's a sensory overload. There's so many, the smells, the sounds it makes, the vibrations the car does. So to me, like, we needed to get out and drive these damn cars. So like I had this idea, and I was like, I think my social media presence, I was like, I know a couple people. So I posted up, I was like, hey, let's do a cruise this Sunday, and let's just see what happens. So I have a good buddy that lives in New Hampshire and Vermont area. His name is Jacob. He goes Elite Designs. He designs all 1320s t-shirts. He designs some of Farm Truck and Asians. He does my t-shirts. He's a graphic designer. I was like, hey, I'm going to do this thing called Cruisin Oklahoma. I was like, you remember that old 90s video game called Cruisin the World? He goes, yeah. I go, well, take that logo. Obviously don't copy it, but make it with the Oklahoma theme. So he did. In like 6 hours, I had it. I was like, damn, that's cool. So I posted it, made a quick Facebook group, and posted on a couple other Facebook pages. My first one, we went to Mount Scott. I think we had 85 or 90 cars, which to me was
from
crazy.
From Oklahoma City, you go to Mount Scott and back.
We stopped at our buddy Sam Barnett's place at Twin Peaks on I-40. And at the time, 80, 90 cars, which I thought was really cool. But to me, a cruise was more of a cannonball run idea.
Right.
And so like, I wanted to get out and drive my car. So out through Western Oklahoma, I took some pretty rural roads. And let's just say we were well north of the triple digit signs. And when I got down there was a lot of guys that went that weren't used to that style of cruise. So when we got there, they're like, man, this was a lot of fun, but our old cars can't cruise 130 miles an hour, bro.
Right.
I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
We need gas stations along the way.
Yes, you know, and we were flying. So when I got home, that was in, I think, that was in September of last year.
Yeah. Because it was a great weather day for a tour. I remember seeing pictures.
Perfect weather. And I was like, you know what? This is kind of cool. I'm going to make this a monthly deal. And then October rolled around, and I was like, you know what? It's like the perfect time for Talamina. So I was like, let's go to Talamina. And by that point, word had gotten out that I was doing these cruises, and we had about 165 cars for Talamina, and I was blown away.
Yeah.
But what sucks, we got down there, one of the fuel pumps went out of one of my cars, and everybody pulled over and waited on me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, cool, this is a pretty cool deal. You know, we did Talamina, we got back, and then in November, I got COVID. So we didn't do it in November. I got over it. And then December, I'm like, this group is growing. Everybody's talking about it. I was like, we should do something to give back to the community. So I grew up in Southern Oklahoma down by Velma Elma. And obviously, when you start getting 200-300 cars together, you've got to find venues, you got to find parking. It becomes a little bit of a task.
Yeah.
So there's this gentleman named Fred Murphin who owns Redline Auto Sports Ranch, I believe is what it's called, in Wilson, Oklahoma. Wilson is down, for those that don't know, or in Southern Oklahoma. It's about 30 miles west of Ardmore, right smack dab in the oil field country. And I grew up down there, and I knew that with the oil field being shut down the way COVID did and the oil prices, those families were pretty negatively affected with COVID. So we took a big donation, and we donated over $10,000 for the clothes and toys to those families. And I didn't want to donate it to like Feed the Children or a nonprofit, because I wanted to see who was actually getting it. You never know where that stuff really goes.
For sure.
So we actually invited those families out to see all the cool cars, and Fred was gracious enough to have us, and we gave all that stuff away, which was super neat. And then that was in December, and I was telling my wife, I was like, man, this is pretty cool.
This is kicking off.
This is starting to go somewhere. And then
you probably got people texting you saying, what are we doing next month?
Yes, we were. And people asking all about it. Where's the next cruise? I was like, well, just, keep your eye peeled to the Facebook page. Well, at that point, I was like, you know what, we're going to, make this kind of a brand. So I made hats and t-shirts, and then the one I guess you went on in January, we went to Perkins. And a buddy of mine, Gasson, who owns Gasson Automotive, owns a BMW shop up there. He's like, hey, I have a dyno. I saw all the people. You think you could pack it? I was like, I don't know. Let's see.
Pulled up, and there was no space left.
There was no space. All in front of the highway was packed. The food truck had a 40-minute line. The dyno was packed, and I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. And obviously that morning we met at Pops. And I was just thinking,
filled Pops.
I was like, Pops is a pretty big parking lot. We won't have any problem. All the Pops was full. All down Route 66 was full to the Red Barn. The Arcadia police were freaking out. The security for Pops was asking what the hell's going on. And so I realized at that point that I needed to start getting the local municipalities involved and getting the police involved, because if these things were going to continue to grow like they are, that there's just no way we could facilitate 200, 300, 400, 500 cars and get around rural Oklahoma without their help.
Well, to that point, the way that we got through Chickasha was what, like 7 or 8 lights, and they just like blocked everyone and said, "Come on through." Right,
and then they're crazy because
I videoed the whole thing. I'm like, this is nuts. Like I was sending it to my buddies back home, like where I'm on a cruise, like, and they're shutting the roads down.
It's so awesome to me, because a lot of my buddies that are like, East Coast, West Coast, I race cars with, they've seen the videos, and I'm like, they're like, that would never fly here. Like, you'd have to get a permit. The cops wouldn't shit about it, blah, blah, blah. And so that's one thing I will say another thing I love about Oklahoma is the cops, they're just so giving. And a lot of people in today's world, want to video cops for every little thing. The cops are bad, the police, this or that. They're doing a job.
Right.
It's their job to protect us, enforce traffic laws. If you mess up, if you're speeding, if you're doing whatever, pay the piper, pay your ticket. Those guys are just there doing a job. So it's really cool to me because, a lot of younger kids go on these cruises. So they're seeing the cops in a light where they're actually doing something to help the car community.
Right, yeah.
And the car community is doing something to help the small towns of Oklahoma by influxing all the tax dollars that we do into those towns.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was really cool. So where I really picked up the police thing was in Stroud. We had our Hallett event. Mm-hmm. I knew that event was going to be big. A good friend of mine, Madison and Sean Hurst, who live in Blanchard, who have a couple Vipers, they reached out to me and they're like, well, why don't you have an event at Hallett? I've lived in Oklahoma my whole life and never actually been to Hallett.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, hell yeah, let's do it. So I reached out to them and they're like, yeah, we'll have you. How many cars are you expecting? I was like, well, every month's been more. So let's just say 350 cars. They're like, really, that many? I was like, yeah. Well, the word got out and we literally filled the entire Tanger Outlet Mall parking lot in Stroud that obviously got wiped away in a tornado in 1999, but whole parking lot was full.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I'd reached out to a police department. I'm originally from Stroud. And so I called a buddy who's kind of connected to the town. He put me in contact with the mayor, or not the mayor, the police chief. He's like, yeah, I think I can do that. So they literally blocked Highway 99, Route 66, right there in Stroud. They blocked that, led us all the way out of town. And then what I started doing that month was I was posting on the smaller community pages to the towns that we were going to drive through.
Yes,
I stay away from I-40, I-35.
Yeah.
I stay away from all the big roads. And I try to take these people through places in Oklahoma that they may have lived here their whole life. They've never got to experience.
Yeah.
So we went up this little road called Milfay Road, which is this little itty-bitty town I actually went to school at for a while. And it was a horrible road.
Yeah.
We keep going or pause it?
Sure. Yeah.
It's probably my son. But anyway, we kept going. And when we got to Drumright, the Drumright Police Department was so inviting that they actually rerouted us through a different part of town so all the townspeople could see us. Because when I had shared it to their community page, their page only had 900 people.
Yeah,
it got shared 270 times.
Yeah, so everyone in town knows what's coming.
Everybody knew.
Yeah.
So the people at the nursing home are literally eyes, up against the glass because they couldn't come out waving at us. Guys were waving American flags. Kids were out
so
there.
Awesome.
And at
in
that
a parade,
point,
basically,
in a parade,
right?
Yeah. At that point, I realized, I was like, this is something pretty special.
Yeah.
So we got to Hallett. We had a great day. We had a helicopter out there. We're giving rides. People were getting to drive their lifted K5 Blazers to 458 Ferraris around a racetrack together.
Right.
Like, when's the last time a lifted truck's been on a racetrack?
Yeah.
Everybody loved it. And my good buddy who helps me with this event, his name is Richard Burns. He's a photographer. He was able to go out, take pictures of that, and give people something to remember that day about when they're on a track with a Ferrari or something.
Yeah.
And then, since January, it's just, I've really put a lot more time and effort into it and really started to grow it. February was a massive one.
Right.
I really didn't think Blanchard would be as big as it was because I didn't have a venue like Hallett. I thought it was just going to be, we're going to go to this town, we're going to cruise out through Anadarko, Gracemont, Coger,
which was a great drive. I've never, I've never been out there, right? I mean, I live in Yukon. I've never been out there. It's literally 35, 40 minutes from my house. And the roads that we went up through, those little, red dirt roads or whatever. Not red dirt. Red Rock Canyons. And and the good thing, the actual road surface was good.
Amazing.
Right.
Yeah. That's one thing I try to do my diligence on is I get on Google Map when I have some spare time at work and I literally drive the roads with Google Map to make sure there's no massive creases or crappy roads, make sure there's shoulders, stuff like that. Because obviously you get 500 or 600 cars, quote unquote, hot rods, someone's going to have a problem. And you're going to need a place to pull over.
One great photo opportunities too with the gas station we went by, right? That was in Rain Man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing. A lot of people don't realize that a majority of the movie Rain Man was filmed out in western Oklahoma. And that gas station there in Coger, right there, I can't remember the highway, 53 maybe, that was filmed right there in the telephone booth scene. And so many people were able to pull over, take a picture, and then still be able to catch up with us in Blanchard.
Right.
And the town of Blanchard, like you said, was so welcoming, as it was Chickasha and Minco. They literally shut the roads down. We got through, because without their help, without their assistance, this would be an absolute mess.
Oh,
it would be insane.
Yeah, you got 400 or 500 cars come to one stoplight in a small town.
Insane.
And chaos.
Yeah, and then we got to Tuttle, and there was that accident north of town.
Yeah.
And then the city manager texted me, and he's like, hey, there's an accident. I may not be able to give you an escort back into town. I was like, I understand. What was cool is, I guess it wasn't a life-threatening.
When he pulled in, he just turned around and he picked you right up.
He just picked us right up. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, they literally picked us up, led us through town. Like you said, everybody pulled over because you get that many cars. They blocked the roads for us, funneled us through downtown Blanchard, blocked it off. We had a food truck down there. There was a Subway there. All the local businesses opened up. We kind of had a block party right in the middle of Blanchard. People can come and go and leave as they want to.
Having great, revenue, money coming in.
Yes, tax money, because you put, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize that go to these cruises is when we do the longer cruises, and we have 500-600
Yeah.
cars, you will literally decimate a gas station. They will not have fuel left.
Right. Yeah.
So like, that's another thing that comes into my mind is whenever we do longer cruises, I have to plan ahead, let the gas station know, hey, you guys need to make sure to fill up because I'm gonna have 500 or 600 cars. They're gonna be thirsty.
Yeah.
And then let's say you get 500 cars. There's probably on average 2.5 to 3 people per car.
Right.
They're buying
They're
snacks.
making all their money off concessions, right? Yeah,
and
for sure.
the tax money staying in that small town that could drastically need that little shot in the arm. And this month we got coming up in April 18th, we're going to be in Hennessy. A buddy of mine, Tony, who lives there, who owns the Golden Chick restaurant, has facilitated a lot of it for me, but this one's going to be epic. Like helicopter rides, a bounce house for the kids. We're going to have a dyno in town for the cars. The city of Hennessy is going to allow us to use their fire truck for a burnout competition. Kicker, who is also an Oklahoma, owned company in Stillwater, they've sponsored a DB competition. There's going to be stunt riders out there doing stunts. And it's just going to be an awesome time. And then the guy that owns or runs the Cars and Coffee up in Tulsa reached out to me, and they're going to organize a cruise from Tulsa to meet us in Hennessy.
Oh, wicked.
So I really think we'll have 700 to 1,000 cars.
Isn't it?
I announced it a day ago. We've already got 185 cars confirmed in a day. So it's growing. And one of the greatest things to me about Cruisin Oklahoma is this. You have kids that are 16 to 18 years old. They're out there in their first car enjoying the open road.
Yeah.
And then there's a guy like this weekend. He had a C1 Corvette. He was probably in mid 70s with him and his wife.
Was that the black and white one?
That was the black and white one.
That was beautiful.
4-speed car.
Yeah.
And they're out there at the same place enjoying the same hobby.
Yeah.
What other event or venue can you do with such a generational age gap? And it bridges everyone together, and everybody has this common bond. And luckily, nothing stupid's happened yet.
Yeah.
There has been no altercations. No one's doing dumbass burnouts or trying to act a fool.
Yeah.
Everybody's extremely respectful, picks up their trash. It's just a different demographic of car enthusiasts than, let's say, the Thursday night mega meet at Twin Peaks. that just got shut down.
Yeah,
those kids
shut down again.
Yeah, act a fool. It's just a really cool thing to see Cruisin Oklahoma in 7 events grow to such lengths,
and such a variety, to that point, such a variety of cars. Like I said, you got someone coming out in their first car. There's been people who just drive their normal car.
Absolutely.
You don't have to have a fancy car or a fast car to come out. Just come out and drive the roads. It's
literally cruising the open roads of Oklahoma. And for those that follow me and do this hobby through this Cruisin Oklahoma, we're going to go to some places this year that people, I promise you can live here your whole life that never knew existed. One of them I've got planned is in Spavinal, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, Spavinal is it's south of the Grand Lake, and it's kind of on the lake chain that comes south of Grand Lake. It's on Spavinal Lake. It's a town of maybe 1,500 people, but they have a big campground there called Copper Cove Campground that holds a huge biker rally every year. And there's a highway. I don't know the highway off the top of my head. I have it written down, but it's about 28 miles south of Spavinal that goes to the foothills of the Ozarks, because the Ozarks start in northeast Oklahoma. And it's basically like a mini Tell of the Dragon, and it's an amazing road. And then they're going to have us up there. So obviously when you plan these deals, the venue is huge, but the starting point's even bigger, because you've got to have a place that houses 500, 600, 700 cars, and to find a parking lot
for a couple hours until we leave.
It's tough. And then you've got to contact the city. Like, I got off the phone today with the guy in El Reno, because when we go to Hennessy, we're going to be going through El Reno. I reached out to him. He said they'll help us any way they can. But the problem is on Route 66, I guess in El Reno, they're doing a bridge construction. See, like,
they're right. They are.
If I wouldn't have reached out to them, if I would have just winged it, that I can't even imagine the mess that would have been.
Yeah.
So now we've got to find an alternate route, which they're going to help us with, and they will basically lead us through El Reno, follow the leader with the officer, and they're going to escort us out on 81, and then from there, Kingfisher County is going to pick us up and take us on into Okarche. Then Okarche is going to pick us up and take us on north, and then Highway Patrol is going to pick us up and take us into Hennessy.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
It's super cool, and having the escort thing with the police, man, it's just so cool that all these towns are willing to help, and they're so.
Well, I'm sure they appreciate you too. Like, say, hey, this is a heads up. We're calling you to help you out rather than causing you a really rough day when we show up. You know?
Take over a town.
Yeah.
I mean, the town of Hennessy will probably double or triple their population the 18th. Yeah. I think Hennessy has like 2,500 people. So, like, I really think we'll have 2,000 to 3,000 people at that event.
Right.
And it's going to double their population. And it's just cool that there's so many car enthusiasts in Oklahoma that are willing to get out on a Sunday afternoon with their families and spend their day with our family cruising the open roads.
Yeah, it is awesome. And like, it's, I will say I went on the first one. My first one was the Pops, Pops up to Perkins, and then I'd missed the Howard one. But the difference in the two, right, just growing and growing and growing, and you got more involvement. And like you said, you're gonna have like bounce house now and kids stuff, like real family stuff, right? Not just car dudes stuff. And car stuff, right? Like it's real. Like in Blanchard, we were just walking around, hanging out, chatting, and just connecting. Yeah, you meet new people every day, and you just, hey, your car's cool. I was following you this time. Like let's chat, or behind you, or whatever. And the group's great too. People are meeting in the group too. And the group's awesome. Growing.
And see, to me, like I'm fortunate. I get to travel and I get to race at some of the biggest venues around the world, and I get professional photographers and videographers that get to make these cool videos and pictures of me. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say I'm not appreciative, but I'm kind of numb to it now. I get so many cool pictures every day when we go to the event that get uploaded. But so many of those people that go on the cruise don't get that opportunity. They don't
get pictures of their own cars, you're right.
So you have professional photographers there that are going out of their way to take pictures of their cars, spending their time away from their families to edit these pictures. It means a lot to those people. And they're actually, they're buying the pictures, they're putting them in their homes, and because they've never had that opportunity to get a professional picture of their car rolling down the road with their kids in the backseat, right? So I think that is a huge draw, and I don't know, I'm just really fortunate to have all these people in Oklahoma follow my butt around Oklahoma and see what we can't find.
Well, I mean, everyone listening, everyone in the group definitely appreciates what you do, right? Because without the planning, and obviously it's not just you have a team doing it.
Absolutely.
You mentioned Richard doing photography, and I know, is it Mike with No Pity?
No Pity.
He's Mike, and then Seth as well. There's a bunch of other photographers who are doing it too, which is,
we got 3 guys that have been out the last couple.
Great things.
And they're taking pictures of these people and
they're
making memories.
You're right, no doubt everyone appreciates them for doing it, because there is so much work that people don't see behind the scenes. Making phone calls, like you said, to each municipality, but over time you'll build this relationship with people. So you're like, okay, like in 2 or 3 years or in a year, you're going to go back and do the Blanchard cruise again. Like, it's just going to be better and bigger, isn't it? They just, hey,
and we're
going
to work through it. And it's going to get better. And then like in May of this year, I've got a really special one I posted about, but I haven't given a lot of info about, but obviously we're in Oklahoma, we're drag racers. And the town of Hinton is actually going to have us out, and we're going to do a drag race in the town of Hinton. My buddy Blaine out there runs the Hinton street races. And obviously one of the things that obviously inspired me to do this is we did race week last year with my Supra, with me and a couple of buddies. And it was such a good time because you get to drive your car out on the open road, pulling a trailer, and you just get to see places in the United States that I'd never seen, like in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. And so we're going to do basically a mini drag week, but for the Cruisin Oklahoma group. So the rules are, we're going to have a class called King of the Open Road. So King of the Open Road is going to be where you have to make at least 2 cruises to qualify to be in with the car you race. So you can't have like an 05 Mustang GT that you cruise, but have a big block, LS power or whatever Fox body with a plate kit that runs 7 quarter mile passes. So you got to bring the car on the cruise that you race, and you have to make these cruises. And when you show up, get your car ready to race. And we're going to have a hard tire, which is going to be probably like a 260 treadwear or harder tire. So like new vets, Vipers can race. And then we're going to have a soft tire, which will be a drag radial slick class. And it'll be awesome. We're going to allow it to be like 32 car fields for each class. And we're going to go race in middle of town, legally street race in Oklahoma.
That's nuts.
That's pretty cool. There's not many places in the United States where you can go to a town and get a permit to go street racing.
Where the town rallies around you and it's like, this is the thing here. Like, this is normal.
We're going to do arm drop, flashlight stop right here, 8th mile, and we're going to get down. That's like the most Oklahoma thing there is, right?
You're right. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. And so many other cool cruises I've already got planned, and they're on the list. I just got to pick dates. We're going to go to Davis. Turner Falls has reached out to me. They're going to have us out there. The town of Jones, they want to have us out. I talked to a Baptist preacher today who's from the Claremore area, that they want to have us out up in that part of the state. So we've really already went to every corner of the state but the far northwest. Right. So, I want to make a panhandle trip this year, and I think that would be really, really cool up through the Black Kettle grasslands. And out that way through Woodward. And there's some really, really pretty rolling country out there. Problem is, most of the cars that go are ethanol fuel based.
And there's nothing out there.
Finding E85 out there is a little bit of a challenge.
That's the next thing for the team, is to have a support truck or support trucks.
Our good friends at CSS, Central Speed Supply, Lori and Craig Hambright, they're actually going to be bringing E85 to the Hennessy event. So people can actually get E85 awesome. And they don't have to am I going to make it home or not?
Well, mate, I appreciate you having me down at the shop, at the house, look at the cars and everything you've got going on. We need to play golf sometime soon. Definitely. But for people listening, how can they get involved? How can they follow you? And then how can they get involved with Cruisin Oklahoma?
So I have an Instagram. It's called, my handle is Jrod_OKC. Basically follows all my crazy car stuff that I do. But the big deal is Cruisin Oklahoma on our Facebook page. We also have an Instagram, but it is private. I did that for a reason. I didn't want any swinging Tom, Dick, and Harry in there, talking trash. So I monitor the group. I try to keep it genuine as I can. Obviously, there's some trolls that get in that I delete pretty quickly. But if you're looking for a car group, you're looking for something to do on Sundays, you're looking for just to make memories with your family, definitely check out Cruisin Oklahoma, because I'm telling you guys, there's so much to see in Oklahoma that you guys don't even realize. And we're going to see it. We're going to get off that beaten path and hopefully explore Oklahoma. And, like some of them say, we're going to get lost in Oklahoma.
Yeah, awesome. Well, again, mate, appreciate you having me out here. I appreciate you taking the time out of your super busy schedule to come and share some stories. For everyone listening, I'll post those links down below so you can go straight to that and follow Cruisin Oklahoma. And yeah, we'll catch you next episode. Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Also, huge shout out to RCB Bank for jumping on board to be a sponsor. RCB Bank's loan promotion is here for a limited time. Head into any of their 40 Oklahoma locations to get as low as 1.79 APR on your next car, boat, camper, or ATV. Apply online at rcbbank.com. RCB Bank, that's my bank. Rate and finance with approved credit. Restrictions apply. A member FDIC. Huge shout out to my sponsors. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next episode. Cheers.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.